Welcome.
David.
I'm so glad you're here.
I know, man.
I ask everyone this question, so I'm just going to ask you, what went through your mind when I asked you to do this, and why did you say yes?
What went through my mind was like, well, I don't think I have that much to say. And then if I do have something to say, I'm sure Annette or people before me are gonna do that. But no, I think the reason why I said yes was just getting quality time with you is probably one thing. But yeah, and then thinking about just looking at other episodes and what you're doing. And so very humbled that I fit the requirement of someone that's made an impact in your life. And so oftentimes, I'm like, I don't really know if I did that much, and that's not necessarily like a Dave thing. I think that's
Sure.
with anytime I get that compliment. So that's, so why I said yes was just like, oh, we get to hang out, get to have a conversation, catch up. And then I think the wait, what moment, I think I have like 10, through that. And even probably going through one right now, and then, knowing you and where we're at is like, oh yeah, Dave's definitely in a wait what moment in different ways.
Yeah.
And so like for me as your friend and as your brother, it's just like, all right, like how can I help out Dave through this and serve him. But then also just like hanging out, and so catching up, and we go back a long time. So not as much as you and Annette, or Peyton or whatnot, but I'm definitely up there. So
yeah, well, yeah. I'm really excited that you're here. This is one of the conversations that I'm so looking forward to because we have these conversations so often.
Yeah.
Every time we get dinner or lunch or just any time, we are usually skipping the small talk and jumping straight into, hey, what's God doing in your life? Yeah. What are you struggling with? What is kind of overwhelming you, or what are you excited about? And so I knew that I wanted to have you on, and you have been, a huge part of, you're one of the people that have been a part of my childhood spiritually and adulthood.
Yeah.
And you're not a family member. Yeah. So like I've gotten to know my parents and I've gotten to know my siblings as kind of adults, and like reintroduced myself as an adult to them and built those friendships. There's very few people that I grew up with in church who then I also have become friends with as adults, specifically in the spiritual community. Yeah. Probably because the kid I was in middle and high school in church, I've tried to create some distance from the reputation I had, and also just the character that I had. Yeah. And trying to pursue humility now, and not fame and popularity, and not trying to boast in Jesus for myself, but allow Jesus to be made perfect in my weakness. And that's a pursuit that's really different from what 16-year-old Dave was doing. And so you've seen both sides of that for better and for worse, and have continued to love me well, pursue me in my friendship, and encourage me to love Jesus. Yeah. So I think you hopefully can share, just for my own benefit, perspectives on my own growth that I think will be helpful for me. And then you're just one of my most favorite people because you have a heart for always pointing people back to Jesus. Oh. Specifically in like the way that you live. It's like you host a brunch, and just randomly while you're cooking bacon, you drop some random verse, and you're like, we weren't talking about Jesus, and now we are. Or as we're setting up for church in the morning, it's like, hey, how can we be praying about the people that are going to see the signs that we're setting up? That's so not normal, even for church folk, right? It's how can we talk and explicitly say, this is for Jesus, this is about Jesus. And so, that's why you're here, because you've been such a light to me, and also just one of my favorite people. So I'm excited to sit down.
Well, that's very kind of you. So I received that. Those are very sweet words, in those ways. And so, I want to comment on a few things. It's not even like a 2-part thing, like of old Dave and new Dave. There's so many different Daves that you get to know. And so, and it's even from a standpoint of calling you Dave or calling you David, or different, kind of seasons. So I remember, your middle sister and I are the same age. And so like we were buddies growing up. And then I like vividly remember we're we're at boot camp. So it's like a hill country thing, where we're learning about Jesus, learning about the gospel, hanging out. But really just, ultimately like trying to talk to the opposite sex. And so like talking to your sister and then like figuring out like, man, I can't remember how many brothers you have. And this is a hard story because, but like she really liked talking about Zach. But then like her demeanor changed and just like her tone of like, well, and then obviously, Dave. And I honestly didn't know. Like obviously I asked the question. And so like the adolescent Dave Hawks was just, a whirlwind of talent through that, which is probably why we're having this podcast of like, you've harnessed this talent, but then also like with that talent came great responsibility, but also arrogance or whatever you want to self-identify as. But it was just like, it was very clear that Dave could hold a microphone. Dave was super energetic, but then also just charismatic from a standpoint of theater and getting people on the stage well beyond your years of. So even like you and I sharing the stage at Hill Country when you were still in high school, in that way. And so like that's still that kind of part of that identity of like when I look at Dave, like I still see this young kid that I grew up with and full head of hair and, the mop and, doing the Zac Efron, singing High School Musical. But then I also see the person you are right now, and so and I think that's a huge blessing of lifelong friendships, is that you get to see the both and. And so knowing that with that lifelong friendship, that there's still a future and that we'll continue to grow together, wherever we are in that. And so, but that's something like, hopefully if people don't know the legend of how talented and just everybody absolutely loved Dave. And I think Annette, hit a little bit on it a couple episodes ago. But that was just something of watching you really come into your own. And so I think one of my favorite things, like when I started working at Hill Country, this is skipping ahead, but like, was there were so many different things I got to do to support our students. And people like really thought I was like this awesome person because I was like sacrificing and like, my quality time. I'm like, no, like it's literally like life-giving to see Zach, be, to learn how to tap dance and to do the old bamboo, and like to go to Cedar Park at the Performing Arts Center and like to see y'all, what is that? Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Chitty, yeah.
And to see you grow in those ways. And then even to the point where it's like, I'm getting a little responsibility. So it's like, okay, I'm in charge of 6th grade. Like I need somebody to lead worship. Like, let me get Dave to come. And so that's something that I always dreamed of was like, man, if I ever get enough responsibility, it's like I would want to do this with my friends, do this with people that I trust and really admire. And we've been able to do that, and so with different churches over the years. But that's it. So it's like, I think when working with middle school students and high school students that then become peers. And so at the time, me being 22 and these kids being 17, 16, that's a huge gap. Now me being 33, and 28, it's not, and so to know who they were in high school, but then also, and it's convicting sometimes because it's, Allison, my fiance, would tell me all the time, like, Dave's not your intern anymore. Like, because like that protective older brother kind of comes out sometimes. That can be, and that's a lot of asking forgiveness, of realizing like, man, like I'm treating them like they're my interns again. Like, these are grown humans, grown adults. But yeah, man, I receive all that, and it's definitely mutual of what you bring to my life, what you unlock in me, a different side of that. And yeah, those are really sweet things to say. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I receive that as well. I think that's exactly right. It's I am not different. God has done a work in me. And like you said, it is one of the best parts of long-term deep friendship is that in the seasons, and you see the change and the growth, and you can call to the beauty that was there despite the mess, and you can celebrate that in future seasons. And And that's one of my favorite things about getting to hang out with you. But I want to, you said you had 10 different wait what moments, which is so great because some people literally didn't even read my text when I told them what it's about. And they were like, oh, that's so funny that I actually literally said, wait, what? For you, and maybe you, I mean, if it's the most important or it's the most recent, for you, kind of what's the first thing you think about as a wait, what?
Yeah, the first thing is like growing up, super blessed to be in a Christian home. And I was the fourth of 5 kids, grew up in Cedar Park and went to Vista Ridge, and Hill Country Bible Church was really my identity. And that's kind of bearing the lead of the story. But we would go Wednesday night. We were still, in the shopping center around Dairy Queen, which is crazy to think about, how big the campus is now. But like Wednesday night, Tuesday night, and then obviously Sunday, all 3 services, all 3 different buildings, watching my siblings go through the Great Adventure and all the programming through that. And like, all I wanted to do was that. In the summer, my summer revolved around the Great Adventure. And that was just as a kid. And so that was what I wanted to do. It was my favorite thing in the world. And so there were so many different things that I loved to do. I love to play tennis. I love to watch sports or fantasy or, read this particular different article on the Astros minor league system and how we should, trade for this guy, in the Dominican Republic or whatnot. But like the thing that gave me the most joy and like the most fun, just like straight up fun, was Hill Country and was Great Adventure, and those relationships around it. And so, like for me, probably my first wait what moment was like when I got cut from the basketball team 8th grade, and I realized I don't think I'm that good. I really like it. I know what to do, but I can't jump high. Man,
yeah,
it stinks. Like I'm shooting it with both hands because I'm not strong enough. So then like I'm trying to leave it up with like one hand on my left. Like, yeah, I'm not good. So figuring out like, okay, I'm not a jock. I want to be so bad. Gosh, I still do. But like realizing like, okay, like I'm gonna have to pivot a little bit. And not that tennis players aren't athletic. Like I was on the tennis team through that, but like I really wanted to play basketball. I wanted to be like my brothers. All 3 of my brothers were on the basketball team. My middle brother, wanted to play college. My little brother, if he was tall enough, he would have been a lot better, but ended up being super talented now. Like, coaches basketball 1 state, so one of his best players is at Texas, second best players on Yale. So through all that, like that was a big thing. But with all that, that was my first wait moment. Get cut from the basketball team. This is my identity. Like I'm basketball. I'm an athlete. It's great. And then like the self-awareness to be like, ooh, I'm not. But then going through college, realizing like, okay, I wanted to teach. So I'm going to Texas State to be an education major, but really get called into ministry. And through that, there's not necessarily like a sexy story of like hearing audibly from the Lord. It was really just like multiple people kind of affirming some things that I thought of like, I think I can do this. Because for the longest time, like the internship at Hill Country was just like this far-fetched idea of like, I would never be talented and holy enough to do that. And like looking at the interns, they were just the coolest thing on the planet. And like so like to be humbled to be like, oh, they want me to come. And so like did the internship at Hill Country, did it for a second time. And long story short, was at Hill Country for 5 summers, and absolutely loved it. And for me, like I like made a Tumblr post because I was really cool like
Throwback.
But it was like super sad boy era Tumblr. But then this was like a positive thing of like being like, what do you do when you get your dream job at 22? And I still think that's what it was. It's like, man, I never dreamed anything higher than the internship. Like, what would you rather do than the internship at Hill Country? And so it's like, I had these 2 dreams. It's like, I had a particular relationship where I was determined and white knuckling it of like, I'm going to marry this girl and it's going to work out. And we're going to have this like perfect little Hill Country life, in one hand. And then I'm going to work at Hill Country the rest of my life. So I'm going to get buried, next to the pond. I'll work there for 50 years. That sounds good, And it wasn't this thing of like, eventually I'll get the keys to the kingdom, or eventually like I'll take Ryan's job, or eventually I'll take Tim's job. It was never that. It was literally just like, I'm good doing great adventure. Let me do mock clubs and go through the Sin Spots gospel and all that for 50 years. I'm great. And it became pretty clear. I was getting a little arrogant, but then also it's just like, I wasn't ready. And I was becoming stagnant. And like I don't know if there's like a biblical phrase, but I was getting fat and happy. And like, I didn't have much like passion or zeal, to learn anything new. And then I was fixated on just those two things. So it's like, whatever I could do to keep this dream job and to make this relationship work, that wasn't working at all. And I lost both of those dreams like within like a 2-week period. And that was like a wait, what moment of like, okay, what do I do? And it was super convicting, because it's like, man, I've been telling people, like, this has been my MySpace tagline. This has been my Facebook status of like Facebook in the old days. You probably didn't have this, but it was like you would have to answer like 10 questions. And like one of them was like religious views. And we were so cool. Like, we didn't put Protestant, or like we didn't put Christian. Like, we just put I love Jesus, which is true. But like, I had to realize, like, how old was I when I left? I was 24. I'm like, do I love Jesus or do I love Hill Country? And that was super convicting. And for me, there were so many relationships where I just felt wronged. And I took zero responsibility for my actions and just for taking the L. So like, there's some times where it's just like, it's nobody's fault. Like, it's just like the Lord's leading you somewhere else, or there's not enough room for you, or budget cuts, or, and for me, like, I remember I was making very little money, and cause I didn't really know, adult things at the moment. And like, I thought it was budget cuts. And I remember like, I went into somebody's room and was like, hey, like, if y'all just give me, I'm not even going to say the figure, but it was a very low figure. I'll stay. And that was like, they had to have the hard conversations. Like, Ben, like, it's not about money. And it's not necessarily about character. Like, it's time. And so that was incredibly hard. And so it was a very long story, but like, I was already scheduled to do a devotional for Hill Country staff. Hill Country staff means like 75 people. You have this huge meeting you have to go through. You have to go and talk to the worship people, like, hey, this is the text I'm going through, all that. And I told them, I don't want to do it. I'm done. And they encouraged me, like, no, come on, like, you got to finish strong. And so I gave the absolute worst devotional of all time. It was taken out of context. It wasn't even a passage. It was just one verse. And I made it about me. I didn't make it about Jesus. I made it about bitterness. And I straight up said, like, I've tried to find the video of it, but I think Hill Country's done a great job of just being like, we're not, like, I think they started recording it the first 90 seconds and they were like,
yeah, we got to stop.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah.
But anyway, through that, like, me being raw, being sinful, being selfish, thinking about myself, not making it about the text, not doing that. One of the people on staff, like, really saw like a really broken boy. He put his arm around me and was like, hey man, like, I got this church that's looking for a youth guy. Like, I think it might be a good stop for you. And at that time, I'm like, I'm not job hunting. I'm staying. Like, like I'm staying in Austin. Like, why would I leave Austin? And so, but then, my parents were like, hey, there's this thing called insurance and money. And so, what was really neat was that I came in the first couple of hours and days in that process broken, thinking about myself, and through that interview process and pursuit, like, realizing, oh, I do love Jesus. Oh, this is what I want to do. And this is what I feel called to do. And this is the only thing I've ever wanted to do. And so it wasn't just a paycheck or I need this for insurance or that. It was like, oh, like, I think this is good. And then realizing, like, oh, they do ministry and church stuff, like, not outside of Northwest Austin. And so anyways, like, I got the job in Tomball, knowing nobody, and it wasn't a Hill Country thing. And they wanted me. They didn't want my dad or my brother, or the idea of what Ben could be, or, if Ben could do X, Y, and Z. It's like they had that. And like, I still to this day have no idea why they hired me. Like, I think I was so raw and green. I didn't know how to do a budget, for that. And like, they were so kind and generous and patient, really, to work with me. I didn't really know how to talk to parents, at that time. Like, the only parents I would ever talk to were people that I would still call like Mrs. Hawks or like Mrs. Borman, because I knew them. And so that was probably the biggest wait what is just like, okay, all I wanted was to get married really early, and then to work at Hill Country for 50 years. And then when both of those didn't work out, it's like, okay, wait, what? Like, what do I do? And for that I learned, and so moving to Houston for 5 years was really hard, for sure. And like, looking back on it, of like, when I tell other people, like at the well or Allison, like, it's just like only positive things. Cause it was ultimately like a very positive 5 years, and it was so hard to leave. But realizing like, yeah, there were some hard moments. We went through a church split. Like, I realized for the first time, like, oh, I think I'm depressed. Like, I probably actually need to like seek help. I didn't want to go to counseling for the longest time. And so it's like all that process about identity in Hill Country and feeling rejected or denial. And then, literally in my mind thought that we were going to get married and blah, 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 blah. And never really like processing that, was really unhealthy, through that. But like, getting to do that was a game changer, really for that. And so it's like, even like going through those pains, but then now at 33, like trying to like not talk down to anybody, or, but being like, okay, like I can help through this. And so it's like, those were super painful moments. But it's able to show. And like, so the amount of high school students that get heartbroken, that I get to talk to about this, where I don't want to, but it's like, man, Lord, like I got to talk about that again. Or, the amount of people that call me about a church split with an elder board. It's like, dang, like I don't want to relive that, but it's like, okay, I can tell you what I did. That way you don't do it.
Yeah.
Through that. So like, 99% of my advice is like, well, this is what I did, so don't do that. And then learn from there. But yeah, I mean, that's the biggest way. What was be like, I think I love Hill Country more than I love Jesus. Yeah. And that was super convicting. Yeah. And then so now that's like I think once a week, really, of being like, am I loving this ministry over Jesus? Like, am I loving the idea of being the guy or the youth guy or my identity, or, whatever the amount of titles that I've had over the years, and realizing it's like, oh, like, so here's a great example. It's like, we're preaching through 1 Corinthians right now. And it's like, am I like diving into 1 Corinthians, for my own heart or for the kids? And oftentimes, unfortunately, I have to be like, ooh, like I'm treating this like a textbook. Like, I'm not treating this like the living word that's sharp, living and active, sharper than any two-edged sword, through that. And that's like, that was something a couple of days ago, like being convicted of that, of, oh, all right, I need to change heart posture and pause a little bit and realign. So,
yeah, the idea that you can go to church, you can be a church person and not be a Christian, has been really convicting me, where church has become the hobby, and it is something that people know how to do. Yeah. They show up and they say the right language to assimilate into a culture that they have convinced themselves intellectually is the right place to be. But there's no real relationship with Jesus. And that's been most of my life, which is, I grew up in church. I grew up being a part of ministry. I was given leadership opportunities really early, probably too early. Yeah. I was given power and influence in a way that allowed me to create an identity in being a Christian, like worker at church, where people knew me. I had a reputation, I had influence, I had value. And the thing that God is doing in my life is saying, nope, nope, nope. You have idols. You have, your identity is in the girl that you wanted to be with who chose someone else. The status in church where everyone thinks you're really mature, or the young professional where you have made great strides in business and in life for being under 30. All of those things are not me. Right. And look where we are now, right? Waking up every morning with crippling anxiety because some of those things have been ripped from me in a way that I didn't expect. And in ways that have fundamentally changed how I feel and live life every day. And praise God for it, because now my prayer every morning is, Jesus, how can I just look more like you? Something Annette said on a previous episode was like, discipleship is not about feeling closer to Jesus, it's about looking more like him. And I've really been kind of mulling that over, because what I want is to feel really emotionally charged for good works and to do good things. And I want to wake up with this kind of internal motivation of, oh, I'm going to go live for Jesus. I'm going to go do good things so that other people think that I'm good and that I love Jesus. Instead of saying, hey, do I actually connect with Jesus directly? And am I willing to full surrender everything, no matter what that looks like? And that's been a really big shift because, God's just continuing to tell me, like, the people, like, your identity is not going to church. It's knowing Jesus and letting him tell you what your identity is. And it's been really freeing, but it's been very difficult because it's like, oh, I have to let go of all the other things that I've been trying to build my identity in. And this is the lesson that I'm learning today, is you have to stop wanting other people to let go of their identity in other things because that's hurting you. Because that girl that has her identity in something else, if she had her identity in Jesus, then she would have picked you. That's a lie. That is the belief that I'm having to let go of, which is other people in my life. If they were more like Jesus, then they would have done what I wanted them to do in my life, because I've associated being obedient to Jesus with getting what I want. And God's been like, nope. That's not how it works. That's not how I work. I don't sign treaties with you so that if you are obedient, then you get X, Y, and Z. And so my identity is being constantly sanctified and ultimately just trying to submit and say, hey, all of it's yours. None of it's mine. My money, my time, my treasures, my talents, all of it's for you. Now what? And so, Mike, I think the question that I'm asking, and this is a question I would ask to you, especially maybe how you responded to that change in your life. What does it mean, or what does it look like to surrender your time, talent, and treasures? Because I am like, okay, I'm spending my money where I'm supposed to now. I'm not buying things. I'm no longer having inappropriate relationships. I'm no longer choosing to pursue these things that I know are broken. I'm like trying to do all the good stuff. But then I remember it's not about moral law. It's about relationship to Jesus. So what did unconditional surrender look like for Ben in the midst of that suffering?
I think for me, it always comes back to Philippians 2. And so like, and it's kind of funny, like, again, like speaks into the hill country lore of it. Like Adam Brunson was like the first like sermon that I remembered from Philippians 2, like not Tim. And Adam Brunson, I haven't talked to Adam Brunson in 20 years. Love that brother. He's, he doesn't remember me at all. But like, I remember he just said something about like, I wanted to preach on anything else other than this passage because of how hard it is. And I remember as like a teenager being like, I mean, I think there's a lot of hard things in the Bible, you know, and then like, but like rereading every single day and realizing like, oh, I don't do any of these things. Like all, if you look at like all 8 verses of that, like I'm really bad at all of them. Yeah. Look it up. We'll go through it, but you know,
Philippians 2.
And like, even like for again, this is just a conversation with the two of us and there's no one listening, but like for us to like sit and realize like, I don't do any of these things. And if I do, like how my brain works, I don't know how other people's brain works, but it's like, let me do this for like 4 hours. And then that like builds up some equity. That way I can get Dave to help me out later. So if I like submit to Dave in these 4 hours, and that means that Dave's going to submit to me 4 hours later. So, or for me, it's like, let me serve really well on Sunday. That way, Sunday morning, that way I can watch football on Sunday afternoon and it won't bother me, you know, because I've earned this. Whereas like the craziest thing to me, like this is literally, I said this last week, but it's like, Jesus did this every day for like 33 years. And like, it wasn't a transaction. It wasn't like, you know, he wasn't like Captain Jack Sparrow of like, let me find like this, you know, chest. That way I can bargain with it later. Like, it wasn't like this get out of jail free card. Like he just emptied himself and thought of everybody else instead of him. Like, yeah, you got it.
Which one? Where do you want me to start?
I mean, just
Philippians 2?
Yeah, just go for it.
So we'll start in the beginning. So if there's any encouragement in Christ, any comfort from love, any participation in the Spirit, any affection and sympathy, complete my joy by being of the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord and of one mind. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interest, but also to the interests of others. Have this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Christ Jesus, who, though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God something to be grasped, but emptied himself by taking the form of a servant and being born in the likeness of men. And being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. Yeah, this has been my idol, one of my idols, which is exactly what you're saying. I am stealing this, I think, from Matt Chandler. Probably, I'm giving God 80%, and then holding him hostage for the 20% I want him to do for me. And so it's like, okay, I'm 90% of my week is spiritual. So I have small group on Wednesdays, I have recovery on Thursdays, I have Sunday morning early setup, and I'm in group chats where I'm praying for people. So that's my time. Okay, and then I'm tithing. I've tithed more than the 10% or whatever. So I'm feeling good about that. I'm not sleeping with anybody. I'm not pursuing sexual relationships. I'm not doing any of the things. Okay, so I'm giving you all this stuff. Where's my godly wife? Where's my successful career? Where's the home that I love? Where's the car that I want to drive? And where's the reputation where everybody thinks of me as the mature Christian that they want to look to, that women want to be with, that other men are jealous of? And ultimately that other Christians are like, that guy's our example.
Right. And that's where like it comes down to just like not trusting the Lord, like period. And so I can say that I do, but my actions speak completely differently. And so it's like, I have my earthly wisdom and my bin brain is looking at all these equations in my head the last like 6-7 days. And I'm like, Lord, like this is like, where are you? Like, are you like, and I'm questioning if he's in control, because the last 6-7 days don't show that, or the last 6-7 hours don't show that, or the 6-7 months, 6-7 years, whatever it is. And like, it's ultimately, it's like, I'm not trusting in him. I want to read something real fast from Bob Thune.
Yeah, do it. You don't have to go fast.
But two things. Of one, this is that. Okay, so I'm going to quote from Will Walker here. But this is talking about just like our hearts. Like our hearts are deceitful above all else. Like who can understand it? They're idol factories. And so it's like I'm producing all these particular idols. And even though when I'm reading Philippians 2 with my brain, I'm still thinking about myself, even when it's telling me not to do that. Like everyone esteems the virtue of humility, but when we step into the reality of our lives, to remember how contrary it is to our thinking. So it's like, that's completely different to what I want to talk about. But we are always vying to be noticed and honored. And like, there's more in this passage, like this devotional, but like I had to like stop because it's like, oh dang, I am always vying to be noticed and honored. And even when I'm serving in ways where you don't get noticed and honored. And so whether it's me, you know, I've said this in a convicting way, like out of the heart the mouth speaks, of like, I was on stage so much in my 20s. Now my 30s is all about being behind the scenes. And I'm okay with that. And in theory I am, because it's like being on stage is exhausting. Like, you know, you have to drink a lot of water, you know, I pass out, like, you know, I'm old now. But then I'm like, I'm still not getting enough honor that I want. Like I'm out there early. All right. My truck value has gone down because of the amount of signs that have, you know, the teal
chip paint. Yeah.
You know, now I'm like, I'm not going to be able to resell this. Like my suspension is off. Like, I want that honor, and that is like, I'm always vying for it and thinking about that word of like, it's not me waiting patiently and just like twiddling my thumbs. Like, no, like I am being sneaky of trying to drop hints in that. And again, like even this whole conversation might be ironic of like we're vying for attention and then we're about to put this podcast up online
right.
and get millions of views. But with that, and then the next, so this is Bob Thune. So the quote before that was Will Walker. Love Will Walker. Bob Thune, also love. But it talks about this. And so most of us are smart enough to avoid appearing prideful in obvious ways. So like an obvious way that he put an athlete that boasts about her talent, the arrogant entrepreneur who flaunts his achievements, the well-connected neighbor who name drops in every conversation. And even I'm reading that, I'm like, yeah. And like, I'm thinking of examples in my head of those people, not me, of course. We can avoid looking prideful without actually killing our pride. And so I can get good at appealing or looking humble or not looking prideful while still my pride has not been killed in that way. And so that's like, again, my heart is so deceitful. And then here's something like for you, like you mentioned of like, where's my wife? Of like, I've had those conversations so much. And so so brother, like I love you so much. And so it's like, even now, like I'm hoping that this comes across fruitful. Because so many times these stories, it's almost like a rich man telling a poor man you don't need money.
Right.
Because I love Allison. She's the best, like gonna marry her. But like during this engagement process, it's fascinating how often I've longed for the bachelor life. So I complained for 10 years. Where's my wife? Ministry would be so much easier if I had a wife. I'm coming home alone. Like this apartment that I have is lonely. It's cold. It's dark. There's no one to help me. I have to do everything. You know, I need a partner. I have so many cool things to share. Like this was a great day. Like how come I don't have this woman, this partner to share it with? And then the Lord gave that to me. And then I immediately was like, you know what was really cool? When I went home and I could play video games. You know what was really cool? When I control the TV. It was really cool. It was like, when I wanted to cook salmon, I cooked salmon. Like, and for me to be like, what are you doing? You literally complained of like, Lord, I would do whatever you want. I will follow you to the ends of the earth as long as you give me one thing. And then he gives me that one thing. And then I immediately come up with 6 other things that I want. And like, this is a story. I'm the bad guy in the story that I'm about to tell, but it's the rehearsal dinner for my younger brother, and they're having so much fun. And my sweet sister-in-law is about to get married, and it's a little stressful, you know, and I see her, I know her, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to come up here and just eat some stress for her. Like I'm going to be the best man. And so I come up to her, I'm like, Amy, like, what do I need to do tomorrow to make your day perfect? And then I will do anything. I will get the guys to mow the lawn of, you know, the actual venue. Like we will wake up early. What do you want to do? And she just goes, the only thing I need is to make sure that all the groomsmen do not bring any alcohol on campus to the wedding. And I looked at her and her amazing curls and I go, okay, anything but that. And like for me, because it's like, I'm not going to tell 18 grown men not to, drink, that's like, this is a wedding, like who's going to have a good time. Like Jesus had fun at weddings, wine, like first miracle. And so it's like, I'm coming over here, like Philippians 2, like, let me think about Amy more than myself, and then I'll do anything. But then when you actually list something that I don't want to do, or would be really hard or really awkward, or just, again, like I wanted to have a beer at my brother's wedding.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, okay, anything but that. And that's a conversation that the Lord and I have all the time. Of like, I will do whatever you want for the well. I will do whatever you want for Hutto Bible.
Yeah.
I will do whatever you want for Tomball Bible. But then when it's like actually hard or it goes against my selfish desires, then I'm like,
all of a sudden,
okay, never mind. And there's so many different examples through that. But again, like humility of like, am I legitimately thinking with my whole heart, not about myself? And I'm thinking about people and putting that above that. Like the creator of the universe who was there during creation, like came down, emptied himself to become man. And like, I'm over here not wanting to empty myself of my title of going like, man, I'm the student ministry pastor. Like, I don't need to be doing that. Like, I'm too old, or whatever it is. So sign team or, handing out flyers or that. It's like, don't we have an intern to do that? And like, I might not audibly say that. There's so many meetings where I don't say that, but you know what's going on in my mind? That. And so like, I might have enough wisdom to not audibly say these things, but still it's like a sin is anything that I think, say, or do that falls short of the glory of God, that displeases God, that make God unhappy, whatever like words we want to use. I just used the definition of sin from the 90s of Hill Country, from the 2000s and the 2010s.
No, I got it. I got that.
Like, but that's where it's like, okay, again, I'm thinking about myself
right
way too much. And again, when the Lord still gives me things that I desire, I'm not as obedient and faithful, and I don't trust in Him. Yeah. And then one more thing, but like even on the flip side of that is that, another wait what moment for me was Tomball was going great. I was probably the only person where COVID like really like helped out our ministry and kind of like realigned us, and we were just having so much fun. And I was starting to look at houses, I'm like, I don't think I need to move back to Austin. And like in a Hill Country church, like reached out and like wanted me to come. And I was so taken aback by it, because I never thought that, these people would think I was this good enough and, that it would be a good fit. And for like a month, and I initially said no. And like for a month and a half, I was just like telling people, I don't really think I want it. Because I was playing this silly game, stupid game of trying to trick the creator of the universe. If I don't think about it, then he won't really know my heart, of like, I did want it. I wanted it really badly. But I had this terrible lie from the enemy that I was believing, if I want something bad enough, the Lord's not going to give it to me. And so it was hard to like actually audibly be like, no, I want this. And Lord, like make it very clear. Like if it's not what you want, then no. And Hutto was great. Like it was very short. It was 14 months. But it was a huge part of my life. I really thoroughly enjoyed. But like I had to figure out, like, I've been listening to the enemy a lot of thinking that I can trick the creator of the universe of thinking like, this is what I want. Yeah. The reality is like, no, that was like the desires of my heart, through that. And so again, like, so you don't want to sit here and give like this empty promise of being like, Lord, whatever you want. Like, it's like, if that's not your heart posture, then like you have to confess to that. Like you repent of being like, so it's okay to be like, yeah. Cause I would say this all the time. It's like, I think I'm called to singleness. When in reality, I did not want to be called to singleness at all, but it was the right thing to say. It sounded cool. Mm-hmm. It got a lot of likes on Facebook. It's cool on a podcast to be like, yeah, like in reality, like that was not my heart at all. I did not feel called to singleness. I just felt like I'm 32.
Yeah.
Like, where is she? And so again, it's like, I don't want it to be like, life's great now, because there's still trials. Allison's the greatest. Like, Allison was made for me, in a very like romantic kind of theological way. Is like the Lord was thinking about me, when he was creating her, and vice versa. And through that, even though I did not meet her, until much later on in life, but like, we still fight a lot. There's still conflict. I confess so much sin, through that, and being single was easier, but not as much fun, and not as joy filled. And so it's like, we very well might look back on this episode 10 years from now, and then we can watch that with your wife, and it'll be great. And we could also watch this 10 years from now, and it'll still just be me and you, and Allison, third wheel. And the Lord will still be good, and he'll still be on his throne.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that you're not going to be honest. And so being vulnerable, saying, this has been a really hard season. I really liked this. I really wanted this job. Like, and so I wanted HUD to last a lot longer. It didn't. Like, I wanted Hill Country to last a lot longer. It didn't. But like, the Lord didn't want that. Like, the Lord had something different for me. And like, I would love to sit here and give this great thing about how every single time I came there very like chin up and walking proudly to the next thing. No, I was kicking and screaming majority of the time, but realizing like the Lord is so gracious to me, when I do not deserve it at all. And so that's, again, it's like sitting there going like, the Lord has something special, for all of us. It looks different for everybody, and the timing. And then like, again, like a very cliche thing that's, but like Rick Warren, the very first page of Purpose Driven Life. You remember it?
No, I don't remember the book, but yeah, I remember
that. Was a big, yeah. You were probably too young.
I remember it was a thing like for forever.
Yeah. So, semantics, but yeah, that was like 7th grade. So you were probably like kindergarten.
Yeah.
But literally, life's not about you. And there's not a comma,
Yeah.
It's just a period.
Yeah.
And like, that's a really good sentence for me. Life's not about me.
Yeah. The thing that God keeps telling me is, you're not in control. You're just not in control of your life. And the more that you believe that you are in control of your life, the more you create God in your own image, and then find out that it's not what you're looking for.
Yeah. And
that's been the really hard thing for me, because in this season where I'm so broken that it's been very convenient for me to surrender right now, because I literally have no other choice. It's like, I'm so hurt and so sad that I just need you, because I don't know what I might do or where I might go if I don't turn to you. And people have been really encouraging to me, saying, it's so encouraging that like you're turning to Jesus. And in my mind, I'm like, thank you. But also it's felt as selfish as anything, because I literally have no other choice, which is the beauty of who Jesus is. But when it comes to surrender, it's like, well, when I have nothing, it's a little bit easier to bring nothing and say, okay, well, you took the girl, you took the money, you took the time, you took the life, you took the future. And by took, I threw away because I idolized the wrong thing. Not that you just are bad and took good things from me. It's like, no, you showed me where I was placing idols above you. And in your mercy, you removed them from me before they actually destroyed me.
Yeah.
And so this idea of, okay, well, it's really pretty convenient to fully surrender when you have nothing. And so I'm finding myself talking to brothers and being like, hey, let's do more of this. Hey, get up early. Let's go do these things. Like, I'm on fire. Why aren't you? Yeah. And I'm getting a lot of, I'm busy. Oh, it's too much. And I'm feeling this conflict and tension where it's like, I want to do more because I get it. I kind of am getting that this is all about Jesus. Your life, what you're doing, what you think matters, it doesn't unless it's in light of serving and building the kingdom. And so, the lesson for me is there's nothing off limits to what God might have for me. And he's also in control of everything. Mm-hmm. And so the lies that I'm annoyed with other people telling me, which is this job is really good for me. It's really good for me to have money. It's not explicitly sinful. Therefore, it's fine for me to give everything to it. Mm-hmm. I'm so annoyed with those responses to my attempts to bring them to Jesus because I'm in a place where I don't have anything and they have something. Yeah. And so my frustration is actually probably more jealousy that they're content and have the things that I wish I had. And so instead I just judge them for not looking more like Jesus instead of genuinely pleading with them to come to know Jesus and pursue him in the way that I'm trying to as well. And I'm literally saying this out loud for the first time because it's like, I don't know why I'm so mad about other people's life and the way that they're living. That's that's my confession right now is I'm so caught up and frustrated that other people aren't getting on board with this Jesus thing like I am. Yeah. That's pride. I'm not getting on board with Jesus like I should be, right? Every day have to deny myself, take up my cross. So I can't boast in my own ability to follow Jesus. So that's a lie. Like that's pride. And then also God's in control, which means his plan for that girl or that guy that I know that I want to come to Jesus, who is choosing to pursue their own thing. It's his time. It's not mine. Yeah. So I can get on my knees every morning and say, hey, please, would you reveal yourself to her that she would come to know you and surrender fully to you? Yeah. But if she doesn't today, that's not because you're not good. It's because you have plans that I don't see. Yeah.
No, I receive a few things. One, I think like the beauty of like you asking, and maybe people have already asked you this. Spoiler alert, I haven't watched all the episodes. But like the beauty of like, you're in a wait now, a wait what moment right now. Yeah. You know, and so you're asking all these people through that and you're kind of getting to process that. And so there's definitely some things of like a little bit of pushback of like, there's other options, but you're choosing the godly one. So there's, you can recant and be like, this thing doesn't work, doesn't make sense, and you're not doing that. Through that, you have a lot of things, working for you. This equipment looks pretty cool. So I don't know who paid for it. So it's like, you got some things going for you, in that way. But then also it's like when I'm asking those things, and I'm talking to myself, not you, but it's like when I'm praying those things, it's like, is it again, like because I'm thinking of others, or is it I'm thinking of me? So if this person came to Christ, it would be great because I trust them and then they can be a student ministry leader. Mm-hmm. Or, if they came to Christ, they would just be less annoying on a Wednesday night, So like if this person actually had the Holy Spirit, then like, they wouldn't. And like, again, I'm thinking Ben.
That's so
me,
good.
Me. Instead of being like, man, like they're so far from the Lord. They have not repented and they have not confessed with their mouth and believed in their heart. And like, they have like eternal damnation if they don't do that. And that like breaks my heart. Mm-hmm. And so is that where I'm at? If I'm looking at this city, like the city of Austin, city of God, every time I'm driving on the east side, and seeing so many people far from the Lord, does that break my heart? And not because, again, what can it do for Ben? But because of these hearts, these image bearers of this. And so it's not me coming, from the west side of where I grew up and, now living on the east side, and then I'm gracing them with my presence or my culture or my talents or my resources. It's really just like, am I just giving them Jesus through all that? And that's also convicting. But again, like your emotions are super valid. And so it's like to feel that, but don't be run by your emotions.
Yeah.
And don't be rooted in those things. And so, of that, of like, I don't have like an answer of this is why, the exact timeline of that. Like, even, remember, quality time with me and you was, was I in Tomball? When did I come help you move in UT Dallas?
You were in Tomball.
I was in Tomball.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, but even that of like, that wasn't a season that you absolutely loved. Like there were seasons, there were parts of that you probably liked. But like, we don't know exactly why, we can come up with, and even me of like thinking, being like, yeah, I left Hill Country and I went to Tomball and I learned these 7 things on the chart. And that's, then it brought me that. Like, there's so many things that I still won't know this side of eternity of the Lord put me here so X, Y, and Z could happen in other people's lives or in my life. And so there's still things that I'm finding out, like in relationships now at the well, where people give me like affirm something or compliment me. And I'll be like, man, I'm terrible at that. And I used to be really bad. And like, I talk, like, I don't like conflict at all. And I've talked about how I would say I'm probably like a 3 out of 10 now of doing Matthew 18 and keeping short accounts. And that's only because I used to be a 0. And so it's like, I still think I'm bad. Any conversation. So like for friends listening to this or me and you, it's like anytime that I'm confronting you about something, just know that in my head, I have already told myself no 5 times, of like, man, Dave's pissing me off, but like, I don't want to talk to him about it,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, and it's like, dang it, Lord. Do I really I just want to talk to Dave about High School Musical or the good old days. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And so it's like, oh man, like I'm mad at Allison for this. Like, and the old me and like the flesh me still just wants to stew in that. Let me just like sit in my little corner, introvert time, kind of going off a little zone, like have this little hypothetical, argument where I win in the shower. It'll be great. And that sounds like so much more fun to me. I don't know how everybody else's brain. Do you have like hypothetical arguments?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All
Put that
the
on
time.
the poll. Yeah.
All the time.
See if, but realizing like, so of all this is like, you look back on this season and like you're continuing to learn, continuing to see blind spots, and continuing to see, and then receive compliments of when you go from a 0 to a 3.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. But then also it's like, I don't want to be, in 10 years, I don't want to be a 3 out of 10 on conflict. Like I want to continue to improve.
Yeah. What you said about, do I really want them to come to know Jesus so that they will experience the life-changing reality of Jesus Christ?
Yeah.
Or do I want them to come to know Jesus so that they will stop doing things that hurt me? And
sit in that for a second.
That's literally what I've been arguing with God about every day, which is if I found out that they got baptized at another church and got plugged into another small group and never once told me about it, never let me know that they were pursuing Jesus, never affirmed in me all of the work that I put into trying to share the gospel with them. Would I be happy about it or would I be hurt by it?
Yeah.
Like, would I be upset if I found out that someone that I love came to know Jesus because they didn't tell me or because I wasn't a part of it?
Yeah.
And my answer has been yes for a long time.
Yeah.
And it is just now where I've started to pray this prayer, which is, hey, Jesus, this isn't about me, but I feel like it's about me.
Yeah.
So that's my confession. But I know what's true is that they need to come to know Jesus regardless. So use the man that they picked instead of me, use the coworker that they are with, bring a new coworker into their work, move someone next door to them and invite them to church. And if I never know, let me trust that if I, with prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, present this request to Jesus, present this to you, that you will answer it in your time and your way. Let me have peace and comfort knowing that's true, and then continue on in what you have for me instead of dwelling in like, did I win this person for you? so that I can feel good about my witness.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the like,
dude,
the refining in me where it's like, am I so selfish to just want other people to only come to Jesus if it makes my life better? And if it doesn't, do I want them to just experience the consequences of their sin so that I can be right? And so that in 5 years, in 5 months, when they've dug a hole of sin that's so hard and they're miserable, am I going to find joy when they're like, you were right?
Yeah.
And if I do find joy, like, Lord, help me.
Yeah.
Because that is not what Jesus wants.
No.
It's, I will sacrifice daily to share the gospel, to speak truth, and to forgive, and desire for them, regardless of how it affects me, for them to come to know Jesus for their own soul, not for me. And I don't feel it right now, but I want to live that way.
Yeah.
And so, it's a daily prayer of how can I not feel close to you, Jesus, but look more like you? And in that process, experience your love, experience your joy, experience your forgiveness, because whatever sin I see in other people that I would like Jesus to redeem in them, there is as much, if not more, in me that I'm hiding from, ignoring, so that I can feel good about other people's brokenness. And God's like, you got your own stuff.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do a bunch of work in you, and you're so focused on them.
Yeah.
And so, that's what God's teaching me. And
you got a plank in your eye, man.
Yeah, exactly.
You're looking at other people's specs, and that's even like, again, 1 Corinthians we're going through at the well of, it's always so convicting for me from a ministry standpoint of, the Apollos Waters, Paul and I belong to so and so, because for the longest time, like that was so hard. Of like I have like this possessive, again, toxic, sinful way about thinking about students, especially in the younger days, of like, if I was to find out that someone went to Polar Bear with Young Life instead of Wise Eyes, or, instead of Winter Camp for us, that would piss me off. And then again, now, like even 10 years later, I'm like, oh man, like we were some arrogant SOBs, dude.
Mm-hmm.
But of like thinking about that, of like, am I going to be excited? Like, am I legitimately going to be joy filled when they get baptized and it's not me? I'm always vying for what?
Attention and honor.
Attention and honor.
Yeah.
I want people to think I'm awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I want people to realize, man, Ben worked really hard. Dave worked really hard.
Yeah.
He was on the ground, man. He was praying for this person for 10, 15, 20 years. Instead of just like, man, they get to be with Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're going to wake up tomorrow and be joy filled.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Well, to wrap up, I'm trying to ask people this question in life in general. What has Jesus got you talking about recently? What is he teaching you? What's the lesson that you just find yourself coming back to in conversations or in your own quiet time?
Yeah, I mean, we've touched on it, but it's just like how to serve well and how to serve Allison well. And so in the best way, and hopefully in a romantic way, it's like I feel inadequate. I've gotten pretty decent and good at being a bachelor and taking care of myself. And so now taking care of another human and leading spiritually, and then also having humility to listen. So when I'm doing something wrong and Allison points that out, well, I receive that in a good way. And so that's having a partner in ministry, is something, again, that I've prayed for a really long time, but then also it brings, new sets of disciplines and things in that way. And so I think that's been my biggest thing of just like, man, how do I serve Allison really well? How do I be a good husband, in that way? And then how does that apply to the kids, and how does it apply to the students? And so I think we've dreamed and fantasized a little bit about, man, Ben's going to be so much better. This is stuff tomball people would say. And then I like, yeah, that sounds great. But it's like, you're going to be so much better when you have a wife to do this. And then now I'm like, oh, I got one. Okay, here we go. But in that way. And so it's like, what does the future look like in that? Like, how does serving alongside her look? And so those are the big things. Again, like Philippians 2 obviously has been something that we've been going through, humility and Lent and Christ humility. We're going through 1 Corinthians and as a church. And so the cool part about students at the Well is, we go through the exact same passage. And so looking through that again of being like, I need to be okay, and not only okay, like joy-filled and excited if they're not in my ministry and they're somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so it's like, this is the Lord's given me the amount of kids. And so I've been super blessed to have a wide variety of different, the titles have all kind of been the same, but the jobs have been completely different every single time. So whether it's on the east side, where we're like 79% Hispanic, whether that's, Hutto, and it's completely growing. Hutto was 20 years ago when I was growing up. It's completely different than what it is now, Tomball, Hill Country, Hill Country, we were running, 850, Tomball 50, Hutto 75, like, in the Well, we're running like 8, a couple Sundays ago, we had 2. And so it's just like, how do I love every single Sunday like that? And having the humility in that, again, like I'm always vying for attention. And for me to even like audibly say that to myself, at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day, like, man, where were you vying for attention? And so it might be silly examples of, I'm at a baseball game and, the umpire calls a strike on the outside corner that was not a strike. And like, I audibly want to say something funny. So I yell out, integrity. And a lot of people laughed. I was like, yeah, that's right. Like, so even that, it's like, that's not inherently bad, but being like, oh, I wanted attention from strangers. I wanted strangers to think I'm funny.
Yeah.
In that way. Like, I know that I do not have a outcome. I wish I did, but I don't have I can't change this umpire's opinion. And the umpire's not going to change his next strike call because of what I'm saying in section 110.
Right.
But I want people to think I'm funny. I want people to think I'm smart. So it's like, I got 2 really cool things on the wall that says I'm really smart. But I'm insecure. I want people to not know that.
Yeah.
I want people to think I'm funny. I want people to think I'm really smart. I want people, and reality is like, okay, like, who cares?
Yeah.
And so I don't know, like, I don't know how long we're talking, but it's like, if we're trying to land the plane, but I got another one, but it's like, there's so often times where I'm focused on what people are thinking about me. And I'll ask like this rhetorical question of like, but if I do X, then people are going to say Y. And I don't want them to say Y. And one of my pastor friends was just like, Ben, they're going to say Y no matter what. And that's hard. And so it's like, there's going to be people that have an opinion about me that's not going to change. And I can't change that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, for me to know my identity in Christ, for me to see blind spots, or for people to point out blind spots in me and continue to work on it. And then again, like, when I'm going to be vulnerable, it's going to be with people that have earned that vulnerability.
Yeah.
And so there's things like, you might look at this podcast and be like, man, Ben's super vulnerable. Like, I shared things that I think would help others, but there's millions of other things that I'm insecure about, that I'll be vulnerable with you, when it's off camera,
right? Or,
and when the time is right.
Sure.
But there's like so many things that we're vulnerable about. And it's like being vulnerable with people that I can be weak around, and people that have earned that vulnerability, in that way. But yeah, like a wait, what moment, is such a great title. But like, I think I've had 10. I'm probably going through one right now. And Lord willing, I get to go through more.
Yeah.
And with each one, they're all kind of unique, but it's for me being like, the Lord's faithful, the Lord's gracious, in that way. And so, Lord, like, this is a Danny Bach quote, but it's just like, Lord, what are you up to? And I love that. Cause I just, when I say it in my brain, like I'm saying it in Danny's voice, but what are you up to, Lord? I'm like, I don't understand. This doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
This is how we planned it. Like, I thought we had it. Like, I thought we had clarity. And then it didn't work out. Like, what are you up to? And almost doing it as a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
Of like, I don't need you to answer. but I'm also going to be honest with you, Lord, of like, I'm a little frustrated. It's almost like Habakkuk. When's the last time you read Habakkuk? Bro.
I don't know that I've ever read it through fully.
No, I know what you're doing tonight.
But I'm doing Bible in a year through that Bible app, so I'll get to it at some point.
Habakkuk is so unique because from a prophet standpoint, it goes from Habakkuk complaining to the Lord talking to him, and then back to Habakkuk complaining, like a response to it, and then he ends it. But like that's basically Habakkuk being like, bro, this stuff is toxic. Where are you at, dog? And the Lord going like, I don't want to misquote the scripture, but it's, I'm doing a work in you that you would not believe if I told you. And then the Lord, and then so Habakkuk is response, and it goes like, for the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. And Habakkuk says, I'm going to sit on my watchtower and I'm going to see what's up. And I'm excited. And so I think that's kind of my thought and heart posture when it's like, what are you up to? It's just like, it's like you're doing a work that I would not believe. And so again, like 10 years ago, like what I wanted was to get married early, work at Hill Country. Those things would have been very toxic for me. I would have been miserable. And the people around me would have been miserable. Again, there's other people's stories. I don't want to speak for them. Right. But like their lives turned out to be great. Yeah. My life turned out to be great. Hill Country turned out to be great. But like together, it would have been bad. And I wouldn't have gotten to meet Tomball people. I wouldn't have gotten to meet Allison. We got to meet the Well. And I wouldn't have gone straight from Hill Country to the Well.
Right.
I wouldn't have gone from Hill Country to Hutto. And so like the Lord was planning something that I wouldn't even believe him if he told me in that way. And so it's like how Allison can point me back to Christ is the most important thing. So it's like Allison's really great. Allison loves football. You know, Allison and I cook well together. Like all these like fun, you know, rom-com kind of thing, which are great, important. I like them. I'm so thankful for them. But it's like Allison points me back to Christ better than anybody that I've ever been around.
Yeah.
And for me.
That's
so
good.
There's probably other people that are like really good at pointing people back, but like for Ben, like she was made in a lab of, she knows me and she's like, dog, you're being so like, do you hear yourself right now? I don't think Allison's ever called me dog, by the way. But like for those that are like, so read Habakkuk, dude. I think that'll be really great. Cause like Hill Country, like, you know, Habakkuk 2:14 is like our theme verse. So it's like, you still have that memorized, don't you? You better.
No, I definitely don't. Man. I mean, I might have it memorized, but I don't know it's Habakkuk 2:14.
That's part of my Hill Country pride coming in.
Yeah.
I'm legitimately upset with you right now. But. Well,
yeah, we should wrap up, but I want to say I'm going to read Habakkuk because what you just talked about, the idea of God is doing a work in me that I wouldn't believe even if he told me.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that makes sense for my circumstance right now.
Yeah.
Because I don't get it. The things that have happened seemed directly contrary to what I thought God was doing. And I am so hurt and frustrated and sad about how my life is right now that the only thing that would make sense is that I don't understand what God's doing and it's better than what I thought he was doing. And so I've always thought, I don't remember who told me this, but they basically told me that was like, a lot of times God is going to look down at you, Dave, and he's going to say, if you knew what I knew, you wouldn't be praying for what you're praying for.
Right.
Because what I have for you is so much greater.
Right.
And so we can bring our prayer requests to Jesus and he asks us to do that. But then ultimately to say, but your will be done.
Right.
Because I believe that your plans are better than my plans.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what what God has been slowly teaching me over the last couple months. Are you pulling up Habakkuk 2:14?
No, I mean, for the earth would be filled with the knowledge of glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea, Habakkuk 2:14.
Okay.
No, I want to make sure I'm quoting. Okay, as I'm looking for that, let's see if I can multitask.
Yeah.
A little bit unrelated. but it's something that you need to hear, or I hope it's something you need to hear. The GOAT, Bobby Pruitt, would tell this story about how one of his youth pastors felt like he was wronged. He was kind of ran out of town. And Bobby and him got Chinese food. And Bobby's like a teenager at this point and just talks about how this is wrong, blah, 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 and like was righteous. And the guy just goes, yeah, but that wasn't Jesus, you know? And so it's like all these things that have been wrong for you, whether they're right or, and like only you can kind of figure that out of like, I wasn't in these conversations. Like, I don't know the relationships you're talking about. But like, it wasn't Jesus through that. So it's like the wrong is in my life. That wasn't Jesus that did that to me. Like those were other people.
That's good.
Okay. So he's talking about, so Habakkuk goes with the first prayer, chapter 1, verse 2, just how long, Lord, must I call for help? So he's saying, I'll call for help. He's looking at the nations saying, yo, dog, this is weird. Then God's first answer, verse 5, look at the nations and observe, be utterly astounded, for I'm doing something in your days that you will not believe when you hear about it. So that's CSB. We're switching to CSB for 1 Corinthians. So show notes, ESV probably sounds cooler. Or makes me sound better of what I quoted.
Yeah.
But and then he basically is like, I'm raising up a different country to kind of take over and whatnot. But anyway, I am doing something in your days that you will not believe when you hear about it. It makes no sense. It makes no sense to our brains of you bring the Chaldeans, people that he compares them to like horses and deer and whatnot. Read Habakkuk.
I will.
It's slept on, and it shouldn't be.
Well, Ben, you talk about, we both struggle with this, about vying for attention and honor.
Yeah.
And while that is the work that Jesus is refining in us, I do want to honor you, and give the attention of I see and recognize, and you have my attention as it relates to your obedience to Jesus. And I am not fooled by your perfection. I don't think that I am under any false pretenses of how great you are. I think that you, like me, probably overly self-deprecate in your sinfulness as a way to make sure that you don't seem too prideful. And I just want you to know that I am so encouraged and impressed by your service, the servant heart that you have for all people. You started a story saying, I'm the bad guy. And then the first thing you said to someone was, how can I make this perfect for you? And even that intention, even saying something like that, only a servant-hearted person asks that question. And also, we know that you can still show God's love to others, even in your own brokenness. And so even though you might be pursuing attention and honor, the things that you do for the kingdom are still producing fruit and are still doing a good work. And Paul talks about hey, some people are preaching the gospel for Jesus, and some people are preaching it hoping that it actually does the opposite. But I'm happy that in either case, the gospel is being preached. And so I just want you to know that even in areas where you might feel like you are doing it for the wrong reasons, I am still so encouraged and impressed by your heart, and it's motivating me to show up early, to have a good attitude, to be willing and able to empty myself. And ultimately, we all get to wrestle with Jesus one-on-one in terms of our heart, the condition of our heart. But I just want you to know that, you are the example that I use.
Oh man.
For someone who serves Jesus faithfully in the small things, in the details, in the non-evangelism sense, which is setting up chairs, setting up signs, staying late, tearing down, making food, just the things that are not connected to biblical faith from an evangelism perspective. You are so faithful in, and so keep working on that.
Yeah, man.
But also know that God sees you and I see you as really obedient. And even in your pride, God's still using you in mighty ways.
I receive that. Man, I loved you when you were 6 years old. I loved you at 13. I loved you at 20. I love you at 25. I love you at your present age.
28.
28.
Yeah.
Damn. Getting old. Man, I love you, dude.
Well, I'm so glad. Glad you're here. I love you a lot.
Yeah.